On the eve of the wedding, my boyfriend told me his mother was ill and asked us to go take care of her together. Without hesitation, I got into his car. However, on the highway, he received a call from his ex-girlfriend. He looked pained and said, "Lily's mental state isn't good, I need to go comfort her. Get out of the car now, take care of mom's side, and it'll help you adapt to your role." Just like that, he left me on the roadside, but I wasn't angry at all. After all, he was willing to abandon even his own mother to comfort his ex-girlfriend. What could I, his current ex, say? When Adrian received Lily's call, he was driving with me to see his mother. He was wearing earphones, so I didn't know what Lily said on the other end. However, Adrian glanced at me with a restrained expression while comforting her, and finally, he took a deep breath, resolved, and said, "Don't cry, I'll come find you right away. It's fine, she'll understand." After hanging up, he pulled over to the side of the road and softly said to me, "Lily's mental state isn't good, I need to go comfort her." I calmly replied, "Think it through." A trace of impatience appeared on his face. "Lily just lost her mother and grandmother, be understanding." I reminded him again, "Are you sure you want to leave me here now?" His impatience became more evident. "Be sensible, get out." I smiled and said, "Okay." His brows relaxed, and he shifted his posture, perhaps intending to comfort me, but I got out directly. His hand paused midway, then retracted as he sighed, "Trouble you to go see Mom, perform well and strive to gain her approval soon." After saying that, he drove away. I hailed a ride-sharing car and went straight back to Adrian's house to pack up all my things. I had my own small apartment and only stayed here occasionally, so there wasn't much stuff, and I finished packing quickly. Midway through moving, I received a call from the hospital saying that Ms. Margaret's prepaid fees were exhausted and asking me to continue paying. Margaret was Adrian's mother, a frequent hospital visitor. Once I had paid casually, and after that, it became my responsibility. Adrian cared about his image and wouldn't refuse to repay me, but each time he arbitrarily deducted the change and delayed a long time before transferring it. I directly gave the other side Adrian's number and explained that I had no relation to them anymore, telling them to call that number for payment. After thinking, for responsibility's sake, I still called Adrian to inform him, but he didn't answer, and after a few calls, he blocked me. For responsibility, I used another number to message him about it and also told him we were breaking up. Whatever happened after that was none of my business. The next day, I went to the company early to resign to Adrian. A few years ago, he had asked me to join him in building the business, but he wanted me to work for him as an assistant without any official title or share. He told me that everything of his was mine, and he would give me enough pocket money monthly, so there was no need to fuss over shares or positions. The salary didn't need to be high to help me avoid taxes. Back then, I still loved him, so I was willing to give up a promising job to join his startup, but his words instinctively felt wrong to me. At the time, I seriously said, "My salary is earned through labor, and paying taxes is only right. But I'm young and capable, what does it mean to take your pocket money?" Moreover, without a proper title, words lack authority. Which company has the boss's personal assistant handling business everywhere? How would I manage subordinates then? You're running a legitimate company, not some shell company or small workshop. Adrian's face looked bad, but ultimately, he followed my wishes and gave me a suitable position and salary. He did have some talent. Over these years, the company grew larger, from one office to occupying 3 floors in a commercial building in the busiest business center. However, this soon wouldn't concern me anymore. After the breakup, I couldn't stay in this company. But I didn't expect to see Lily in Adrian's office when I walked in. Before I could be surprised, he immediately questioned me, "What happened with you yesterday? Didn't I tell you to go see my mom first? Do you know?" Fortunately, I had Jason go. At that moment, I hadn't closed the door yet, and Jason happened to pass by. Hearing this, he looked speechless and quickly left. Jason was Adrian's assistant, often ordered by Adrian to handle personal matters without overtime pay. I repeatedly advised him not to go too far, and only then did he reluctantly give Jason a slight raise. I closed the door and chuckled, "I called you about it, But you were in your own world with Lily then, so you blocked me. Lily, hearing this, said unhappily, I know I disturbed Adrian and Ms. Claire yesterday, which was wrong, but Adrian and I were completely innocent yesterday. Ms. Claire can't slander me like this. Adrian's face darkened too. Claire, don't speak recklessly. I said yesterday I was just going to comfort Lily. Don't think so dirty. Comforting her to the point of bringing her to the company today? Adrian choked and said, Lily said she wanted to find something to do, so I brought her. From today, she takes your position, you be the deputy. I was stunned. Huh? He said righteously, Lily needs work experience. Don't worry, except for the position change, all other benefits remain the same. Lily stubbornly said, I won't stay in Adrian's company for too long, Ms. Claire doesn't need to worry. I laughed, then who does the work? The responsibilities between director and deputy director differ quite a bit. Adrian said guiltily, Lily was abroad before and isn't adapted to the domestic workplace, help her. Forget it, Lily pretended to be carefree, my request is a bit excessive, I'll find another way. Wait. Adrian held Lily back and turned to me, Claire, be sensible, I haven't blamed you for yesterday yet. Enough with your duet. I smiled slightly, I resign. The news of my resignation spread quickly in the company. My team members messaged in the group to console me and ask if I wanted to take them too. I was surprised, it turned out Adrian was so unpopular, but it made sense. It was fine at the start of the business, but as the company grew, Adrian became less respectful to employees, often skimping on benefits. What employees got most were his empty promises. When I advised him too much, he got unhappy and started indoctrinating me with his superior mindset. I didn't want to be too ruthless and wanted to rest for a while before job hunting, so I politely declined their offers. These subordinates were all highly capable, even if they left on their own, they could surely find better jobs than here. A few days later, I suddenly received a call from a headhunter saying that one corporation offered me double my current salary and other generous conditions to join them. They also said if I could bring my team, the salary could be negotiated further. After hanging up, I was puzzled. One corporation was a domestic business giant, and although Adrian's company developed well, compared to when, it really couldn't compare. Why would they have a headhunter poach me and my team? I thought it was a scam, but the materials sent by the headhunter showed it was really Wen. I couldn't recall any connection with Wen, but the opportunity was rare, so I replied that I was willing to interview. At this time, Adrian asked me to go to his office. When I entered, I saw his gloomy face. What is it? Why aren't you cooperating with Lily's work? Cooperate with what? Serving tea, pouring water, photocopying, delivering files? Is that my job? She doesn't understand much, you don't need to have such a bad attitude, you can teach her. I'm already organizing handover files and will give them to her soon. Before that, tell her not to bother me. Hand over what? When she leaves, you'll still be in the main position. We've broken up, it's not appropriate for me to stay in the company. Break up? I didn't agree. Adrian stood up suddenly, his face ashen. Is it necessary, Claire? Just this once, and you sentence me to death? It's not just once, have you forgotten 2 years ago? 2 years ago, on the day Adrian and I were preparing to celebrate our anniversary, Lily suddenly called saying she had a fever and felt unwell. Adrian ignored my objections and insisted on leaving to take Lily to the hospital. That time, he returned after 2 days and apologized desperately, saying he couldn't bear Lily being alone in the city with no one caring, and her mother and grandmother were far away in other cities. He promised me it wouldn't happen again. Back then, my feelings for him were still deep, so I forgave him, but I also told him there would be no second time. Now, hearing me say this, Adrian suddenly laughed, jealous? Remembering something from so long ago so firmly. Okay, I promise you, after helping her this time, I won't contact her anymore. Give me another chance, isn't it said that things don't go beyond 3? I shook my head, you'd better find a way to get her familiar with the business quickly. His face changed, are you serious? What else? I turned and left the office. after closing the door, I heard him throwing things. In my book, there's no such thing as not beyond 3, forgiving him once was already me being lovesick. I returned to my office and saw Lily directing someone to carry out a cardboard box. That person was dragging slowly and not moving. Seeing me come, he breathed a sigh of relief. My heart sank as I frowned. So urgent? Lily crossed her arms. Adrian agreed to let me use this office, so I had people pack your things. I glanced at her. You could wait for me to return. Is your upbringing to mess with others' things when they're not around? I took the box from that person. You go busy yourself. That person hurriedly agreed and left. Entering the office, I quickly rummaged through. Lily followed in hurriedly. What are you doing? Checking if anything is missing or damaged. She scoffed. Would I take your things? At that moment, I saw the fountain pen I had been worrying about at the bottom of the box. The instant I saw it, blood rushed to my head. That pen I cherished immensely was now casually placed in the box with its cap, and the nib was split, clearly from being dropped. This was a gift from my grandmother after her high school graduation. She passed away from illness afterward, and I've used this pen ever since. I took several deep breaths to control myself and held out the pen to Lily. How do you explain this? Lily looked indifferent. It accidentally fell on the ground while packing. You can just replace it. Hearing her say that, I could no longer endure and immediately slapped her hard with my right hand. She was stunned by the slap. Coming to her senses, she covered her face and screamed, How dare you hit me? I gritted my teeth. You deserve it. As I was about to add another slap, I was suddenly pushed, hitting the corner of the desk, and my left hand throbbed in pain. Adrian, with a livid face, said, It's just a pen. Is it worth hitting someone? I stared at him intently. You know what this pen means to me. So what? A pen is just an object. I'll compensate you. Apologize to Lily. I sneered. You started it. Don't blame me for retaliating. That day, I contacted Wen's liaison and said I could bring the team over, and I asked my subordinates' intentions. They already had the idea, so they naturally responded affirmatively. On the day we collectively resigned, Adrian's face turned green. He roared at me. Do you want me dead? Do you hate me that much? I just went to comfort Lily, and she just dropped your pen. Although he was obstinate and self-willed, he knew my team was indispensable to the company, not to mention he couldn't hire people of the same level at our current salaries. Even if he could, he couldn't assemble them quickly, and the business would surely halt. Seeing my expressionless face, he immediately softened his tone. I'll have Lily apologize to you and promise to send her away soon, okay? I still said nothing. Seeing softening didn't work, he said with a gloomy face, Think clearly. I can refuse to approve your resignation reports, and don't forget about the non-compete agreement. I really admired his ability to change faces. If the company really collapsed, he should join a theater troupe to perform. I sighed. Adrian, why bother? Resignation is a notification, not an application, and you never had us sign the non-compete agreement. I had actually reminded him of this, but he didn't sign because he was reluctant to pay potential compensation. I continued, We've worked hard in your company for several years. Everyone knows whatever issues the company has, so it's best not to make it a lose-lose situation, right? His face alternated between green and red. Finally, he could only angrily sign the resignation reports. While packing to leave, I happened to see Adrian venting on Jason again. You can't even do this little thing well. What's the use of you? You're not good-looking, not capable, and not hard-working? Jason's face flushed red with anger, and he suddenly erupted. I quit. Adrian was stunned, then sneered. You want to imitate Claire? Think if you have her skills? Whatever. Jason ultimately left with us. We thought it was a spur-of-the-moment resignation, and future jobs might not be easy to find, so we wanted to help casually. But she smiled and told us she had passed the civil service exam and received the admission notice 2 days ago. So that's it. Adrian looked down on her, but he misjudged. Jason also complained to us about previously taking care of Adrian's mother. It turned out Margaret didn't control her diet even in the hospital, had stomach issues that day, and since I broke up with Adrian and didn't go, she defecated in bed. The caregiver refused to do it. Jason pinched his nose and cleaned up all night, so disgusted he couldn't eat breakfast. And Margaret kept cursing nonstop. I suddenly realized why Jason's face looked so bad when he heard Adrian mention it that day. On the day I joined when Ethan shook my hand and chatted. "I've noticed Ms. Claire and your team before. Achieving such great results in just a few years is extraordinary." I smiled, "Just lucky." Ethan also smiled, "I have a feeling your luck will be even better at when." Looking at Ethan, I was dazed for a second. It wasn't that I had any thoughts about this when I'd never met, just vaguely felt his features seemed familiar. This wasn't the feeling from seeing him often in finance newspapers and magazines before. I thought after resigning, I'd have no more relation with Adrian, but who knew on the first day after work, I received Margaret's call. In the call, Margaret accused me of being ungrateful and irresponsible, saying I'd been supported by Adrian's money these years, yet I had a big temper and refused to go to the hospital, and now betrayed Adrian. "I thought you weren't suitable for my son before. If not for Adrian's insistence, I wouldn't have agreed. Do you deserve him like this?" When Adrian and I were dating, his mother always subtly showed disdain for me, so we had little phone contact before. Thus, after breaking up with Adrian, I blocked all his contacts but missed his mother. I originally wanted to block her directly, but Margaret's next words dispelled that idea. "When free, have your parents come see me. I want to ask how they raised their daughter." Insulting my parents was intolerable, and of course, insulting me was the same. I unpolitely replied, "Auntie, that's my labor earnings, not him supporting me with money. And how my parents raised me is none of your business. At least they didn't teach me to not control myself when ill, ending up soiling the bed and troubling others to clean." Before I finished, the other side hung up. After blocking Margaret too, I couldn't help but feel glad she was now mobility impaired, otherwise, she might really harass my parents. My parents always disapproved of me and Adrian together. Hearing of the breakup, they were overjoyed, and their celebration was to leave me and travel abroad. Sigh, what a unique way to celebrate. I saw Adrian and Lily again at a real estate agency. My parents' friend recently needed to sell a large 3-bedroom apartment renovated 2 years ago but barely lived in due to business turnover. They liked that house. Coincidentally, my father made a small profit from stocks. They calculated that with savings, it was enough, so they wanted to buy me another house. I didn't care about house size living alone and didn't want them using pension money. After arguing, we agreed to sell my small apartment and add father's stock money to buy their friend's house. Today, I met the agent to discuss selling the house, unexpectedly seeing those two. Really unlucky. Over there, Adrian, learning I was selling, looked hesitant to speak. "I told you not to resign impulsively. It hasn't been long, and you're selling the house. Why not bring people back to my company? I'll add 1,000 yuan to your salary." He didn't know I jumped to when. Beside him, Lily hurriedly said, "But Adrian, didn't you poach a director from that big IT firm? Ms. Claire might not have a suitable position if she returns." Her words carried a subtle tension, seemingly worried about my return. Adrian right, Claire, if you return, you might start from a lower position. But don't worry, as long as you work hard, you'll soon return to your original salary level. I couldn't be bothered with them and focused on discussing the sale with the agent. Adrian frowned, "Claire, you're as arrogant as before, but now you." I couldn't tolerate it and interrupted, "I'm upgrading houses, not selling because I'm short of money, thanks. Also, my current company is excellent, with much better benefits than yours, and more formal." Adrian didn't believe, "I know it's hard for you to accept the treatment gap, but..." Annoyed, I looked at the real estate broker, who understood and quickly blocked in front, "Sorry, you two, we have business to discuss with Ms. Claire." Another staff receiving them stepped forward, "I just found a cheaper rental, you two can see if you can accept it." Oh, so they were renting, so arrogant, I thought they were buying. Adrian hurriedly explained, "My original house needs renovation, so I want to rent one temporarily." Lily hugged Adrian's right arm. "Actually, Adrian and I got back together, thanks to Ms. Claire, you'll bless us, right? Renting a house with so much drama, not just me, others present had indescribable expressions. Blessings. Lock them together. They were speechless for a moment. I took the chance to enter an office with the broker for detailed discussion. After that, I didn't see them for a while. After all, the companies differed greatly, with little business circle overlap. But I occasionally heard gossip from my subordinates from former colleagues. After I led the team away, Adrian's company deteriorated. Desperate, he hired a workaholic from a big firm. The workaholic had average business skills but liked enforcing discipline. Some positions only needed to do their work well without daily early arrival or overtime, but he deducted pay for lateness or early leave. Thus, a batch of capable but lazy-to-move employees resigned one after another. Now the company even delayed wages. The latest news was layoffs and preparing to move, of course from 3 floors to 1, to an even older building than initially. Truly, the world is impermanent. During this period, Adrian occasionally changed numbers to message me reminiscing the past, but each time I blocked him. After a while, perhaps no money for new numbers, he stopped. But you can't hide the truth forever, and my working at Wynn wasn't secret, so Adrian and Lily found out. I saw Adrian in Wynn's underground parking lot. I was off work getting my car when suddenly someone rushed from the corner and grabbed my hand. Startled, I stomped hard with my high heel. That person screamed and let go. Looking closely, it was Adrian. I was furious. What's wrong with you? But Adrian said viciously, you actually jumped to Wynn. I was baffled. I've jumped. Where I go has nothing to do with you. Besides, people aim higher. Anyone would choose Wynn over staying with you. He gnashed his teeth. Do you know? Looking at his twisted face, I felt very uneasy, groping for my car keys in the bag while observing the surroundings. Fortunately, security heard the noise and ran over, but surprisingly, Ethan came along too. Before those two could say anything, Adrian saw Ethan and went crazy. You did it on purpose. You knew Claire's importance to my company, yet deliberately poached her and her team. These two know each other? Ethan glanced at him lightly and said faintly, if you have the ability, you can poach Director Claire back. Adrian, stimulated, said, you're just relying on Wynn. What's so great? Don't forget Wynn isn't yours alone, I have a share too. His wild words made the security look disdainful. I was thunderstruck and confused, vaguely sensing I'd touched some tycoon family secret. Wait, come to think of it, Adrian and Ethan's features seemed somewhat similar. I suddenly realized. But Ethan was probably raised in luxury from childhood, with much better temperament than Adrian. Ethan continued leisurely, when employees come and go freely, if you can provide good enough conditions, I don't mind Director Claire going to a better future. I felt a hint of provocation in his words. Claire, you heard. You're not important to him at all. I couldn't understand his logic. What nonsense are you saying? Isn't mutual selection normal in the workplace? Adrian wanted to continue raging, but was subdued by arriving security. Security asked if to call police. Ethan asked my opinion. Honestly, I hoped he'd never bother me again, but ultimately, even if police were called, it'd just be criticism and education. I had to grudgingly say I hoped the company strengthens security later, and forget calling police. Adrian calmed a bit, glared hatefully at Ethan. I'll definitely get justice for my mom and take back what should be mine. After Adrian left, security apologized repeatedly to Ethan and me. Turns out Adrian sneaked in following other company people when security wasn't looking. When building parking requires access card, otherwise he couldn't enter. After security left, only Ethan and I remained. I nodded to Ethan, then I'll go first, Ethan. Isn't Director Claire curious about the earlier conversation? Not curious, thanks. I sincerely said, as a worker, I just want to do my job well and earn more money. So I wouldn't delve into why Ethan arrived shortly after Adrian sneaked into the parking lot. But my presence was probably an unexpected surprise for Ethan. That's good. I worried Director Claire would be affected by those words. I really invited Director Claire because I value your abilities. That's true. These months working at Wynn told me that regardless of Ethan's other intentions in poaching me, at least valuing my abilities was genuine. I smiled, I deeply feel that. Adrian was probably greatly stimulated by Ethan, becoming more deranged, starting to desperately snatch Wen's business. At his company's peak, it wasn't impossible, but that required clients valuing cost-effectiveness and Wen not caring much about such projects. Now, one can only say he brought it upon himself. Under his accelerated self-destruction, his company collapsed on the eve of Wen's annual meeting. But I didn't expect Lily to stay loyally by his side. That's good too, seems they are true love. If they lived like that, it would actually be fine. But Adrian was already crazy before bankruptcy, how could he become sane after? Sure enough, soon he made a big scene. On Wen's annual meeting day, besides Ethan, Victor and his wife Elsie also attended. Everyone was busy for a year, happily eating, drinking, and drawing prizes at the meeting. But midway, Adrian suddenly appeared with his mom Margaret at the site. Victor's face changed immediately, but Mrs. Elsie was very calm, not even surprised, as if she knew they would come. Adrian pushed the wheelchair to Victor. Along the way, people covered their noses. No wonder, Margaret had been paralyzed long, and Adrian recently overwhelmed, surely neglected care. They obviously tidied before coming, but couldn't hide the odor on Margaret. I looked at Ethan, he was as calm as his mom, even with some amusement in his eyes. Oh, no wonder Adrian, an outsider pushing a wheelchair, could sneak into this one-chartered banquet hall. Margaret stared affectionately at Victor, trembling. Victor. Victor finally reacted, hurriedly interrupting, "Who are you?" Margaret was stunned, somewhat at a loss. Victor. Victor displeased, "Where's security? How did people sneak in?" Margaret panicked now, hurriedly pulling Adrian forward. "Victor, this is your son. You promised me that one day he'd recognize his ancestors." Adrian said loudly, "Mom, don't beg this man who abandoned wife and child, we don't need him, I don't care about entering the Wen family." Though he said that, his eyes fixed on Victor and son on stage, with obvious greed, envy, jealousy. Victor's face turned green. "What nonsense, I don't know you. Where's security?" Security rushed over, we employees looked at each other. Before joining the company, I heard Victor had many romantic affairs in youth, but Wen's real power holder, the old man, was rigid and traditional, strictly forbidding illegitimate children entry, so for years, Wen's official third generation was only Ethan. Security grabbed Adrian, pushed Margaret's wheelchair out, Adrian outnumbered, Margaret powerless in wheelchair, both quickly removed. But Margaret's shouts still came from afar. "Victor, do you have a conscience? A few years ago, you lied saying you'd divorce your wife soon, and said Adrian was promising, wanting him to help get your wife's shares to fully control Wen. Now his company is bankrupt, and you don't care." We all looked down, not at Victor's family's expressions. But I finally understood why Margaret looked down on me. She always thought Adrian would return to Wen family, and I, an ordinary person, wasn't worthy of marrying into wealth. In this light, Lily surely wasn't in her eyes either. And why Adrian always said he didn't want to talk work at home, so not to bring finance magazines when visiting, was now clear. Because Ethan was a regular in finance magazines, Adrian hated him so much he didn't want to see him at all. The annual meeting ended hastily, but after the new year, all employees' year-end bonuses increased. Because Ethan took office as the new CEO just days after the meeting. After this spread, reportedly the old man was furious. Soon Victor issued a statement at the shareholders' meeting apologizing for his youthful mistakes, and to stabilize Wen's stock price, announced retirement, transferring all his shares to Ethan, hoping Wen prospers under Ethan's leadership. The new CEO, upon taking office, announced the company would take part of this year's profits to boost everyone's year-end bonuses. Naturally, it was universal celebration. Lily came to find me. Actually, I didn't want to see her, the front desk dutifully blocked her, but she pestered insistently for me to come out. Fearing bad influence, I helplessly went down and to a nearby cafe with her. "Claire, go back to Adrian, his true love is you." I was utterly astonished. Her expression was sincere, even urgent, grabbing my hand. "I'm serious, when drunk, he calls your name. I know you must still love him, forgive him. Something abnormal must have a reason, I mockingly said calmly. He went bankrupt, so you let go and let him find true love? She got anxious. How can you say that? If he still loved me, I'd stay with him forever regardless of rich or poor, but he doesn't love me anymore. And he's not really destitute, he still has a chance to turn around, don't worry. Her expression grew more urgent, as if determined to make me reunite with Adrian. I don't go back to exes, don't come find me again, or if you affect my work again, I'll call police. No, you can't leave. She stood up quickly in anxiety, making the chair screech loudly. You must promise to reunite with him. Since joining when I frequented this cafe, a regular, then a staff came asking if I needed help. I nodded. Please call police for me. Lily, hearing I'd call police, had to leave embarrassed. But she and Adrian were truly a match, because when I got home and parked in the community, I saw Adrian waiting under the streetlight. I really don't know how he knew my new address after moving. He looked decadent, unkempt. Claire, I really know I was wrong, forgive me. As long as you come back, I'll definitely not contact Lily anymore. Help me rebuild the company, I'll give you all shares, listen to you. He walked toward me, eyes flashing abnormal fervor. I stepped back 2 steps, hand in bag. You still have money to restart the company? Actually, I have another house, selling it gives startup funds, bring the team over, we'll surely create glory again. Or sell this community's house, move to my home, conveniently care for my mom together, anyway, after marriage, we're family. Sorry, I told Lily too, I don't go back to exes, please leave. His face twisted. Did you fall for Ethan? Why does he rob everything from me? How can you be so cheap? Ah. I quickly pulled out anti-pervert spray and sprayed his face as he pounced. He immediately covered his face screaming. After Lily came today, I felt uneasy, so on the way home, I bought a bottle casually, sure enough, used it. I kicked him, he fell immediately. I turned and ran, calling police while running. In the end, Adrian only got criticism and education since no substantial harm, I expected it, had to accept. Sorry Claire, I was too excited today and scared you, I'll come find you another day. My God, don't come. Of course, I couldn't let Adrian continue harassing me, so I contacted friends met through work, they introduced a skilled private detective. 2 months later, dust settled, Adrian could no longer find me. Actually, I had forgotten one thing, Adrian never separated from his mom, he himself was illegitimate. Naturally, back then his mom married someone else with him. Accurately, she married someone else while pregnant with him. If the other knew, nothing to say, but Margaret concealed it thoroughly from start to end. And Adrian's unlucky early deceased dad was the only brother in the family, with 3 sisters above. The Zhou family spoiled Adrian's stepfather from childhood. After his unfortunate death, Adrian became the perceived only heir in Zhou family, and family resources naturally went to him. Though others lived bitterly because of this, thinking the Zhou heir was doing well, everyone accepted. But all this premised on Adrian being Zhou bloodline. That day's annual meeting farce quickly lost heat under Wen's operations, and other Zhou family lived bitterly, no leisure to surf net, so surprisingly didn't see the news. Adrian never mentioned his family, so I always thought he only had his mom. Now knowing, of course I had to facilitate their family reunion. I anonymously messaged other Zhou family, telling everything. Soon Zhou elders and his 3 aunts all came to him and his mom. The detective's last message to me was photos, Adrian and Margaret bruised, hair disheveled on ground, surrounded by sleeve-rolled Zhou others. Sigh, don't underestimate rural elders and migrant workers' strength. This mother-son pair still wanted to divert trouble, telling them to ask Wen for money. And I informed Ethan early, learning he was also operating behind scenes. Finally Zhou people got money and were willing to leave. While Adrian mother-son shouldered a lifetime unpayable usury debt. As for Lily? I later learned why she eagerly wanted me and Adrian to reconcile. After Adrian had nothing, he refused to lose Lily too, clinging desperately. She had to say I had good job and money, willing to help Adrian win me back, in exchange for her freedom. Oh, wanted me to shield her from disaster. Then naturally I had to reciprocate, letting her and Adrian, this loving pair, become dependents. Previous blessings weren't just lip service. Adrian had given Lily many valuables before, now unable to win me back and hearing she ran, he was anxious. He sent his mom to a cheap nursing home, then under my anonymous tip, found Lily about to flee the city. As for how this heaven-made match would love and kill each other after, not my concern. I was reporting work to Ethan in his office. After finishing, as I was leaving, he called me back, apologizing for not stopping Adrian timely, leading to him harassing me at my community. Previous matter startled Director Claire. It's okay, in the end, thanks to Victor it was resolved once for all. Ultimately, designing others to owe usury I really couldn't do, indeed thanks to Ethan for cleaning up. That's necessary. If he continued troubling Director Claire, wouldn't I likely lose a great general? Victor is joking. I'm not exaggerating, such a good girlfriend and capable subordinate, he really didn't cherish. I raised an eyebrow, smiled, capable subordinate I accept deservedly, as for the former, then Victor, when meeting a suitable other half later, must treat well. Ethan stared at me for 3 seconds, then smiled, definitely, okay, actually I asked Director Claire to stay not for chit-chat, but to tell you good news. Turns out when's a city branch general manager retired at age, he wanted to send me, asking my intention. A city branch developed very well, going there was clearly promotion. My parents liked traveling everywhere, I often lived alone in this city, going to a city had no impact. I happily said willing. I soon took office at a city branch. 2 months later, one morning rushing to conference room to host meeting, phone popped a message, marriage alliance. Turns out our chairman was to marry with another business giant Chi family's daughter. I glanced roughly, rich people are luxurious, even engagement so grand. Then my secretary came reminding meeting time neared. I know. I pocketed the phone, headed to conference room.